Hey there. Ready for a deep dive into something I think we all experience daily? Urban mobility.
Mhm.
We're going to unpack some fascinating research about the future of transportation, specifically in cities. You've shared some really thought-provoking stuff with us, especially this report titled Situación actual del automóvil personal. I'm going with the current situation of the personal automobile for our English-speaking audience.
Sounds about right.
And let me tell you, this report doesn't sugarcoat anything. It jumps right in, calling out the elephant in the room, or should I say the gas guzzler on the road.
Indeed, while the report acknowledges the undeniable convenience cars provide, especially in rapidly developing economies, it doesn't shy away from the hefty price tag that comes with our car-centric lifestyle.
And it's not just about the environment, right? It's social, economic, you name it. But speaking of the environment, this report throws out some hard-hitting facts. Did you know that in European cities, transportation alone accounts for a whopping 30% of total greenhouse gas emissions? And a significant chunk of that, we're talking about 72%, is directly from passenger cars. It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about the sheer scale of it all.
It's definitely a sobering reality check. And what's even more concerning is that these emissions are a major contributor to air pollution in urban areas, particularly affecting densely populated cities.
It's like we're all living in a cloud of our own exhaust fumes. And it's not just the air quality that suffers. This report really digs into the concept of urban sprawl, where cities are designed around cars instead of people. We're talking about endless parking lots instead of green spaces, priority given to highways over bike lanes, and the constant noise pollution that comes with it all.
And let's not forget the economic strain this car-centric model puts on individuals and society as a whole. The report states that the average car owner spends close to $10,000 per year on their vehicle. That includes fuel maintenance, insurance, parking. It all adds up. And that's not even factoring in the massive public expenditure on road infrastructure.
Wow, $10,000. That's a significant chunk of anyone's income.
I know.
I was reading about a study where they asked commuters how much they need to be paid to give up driving for a year. The average answer, almost $50,000. It shows how deeply ingrained car dependency is in our culture. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it's a fascinating insight for sure. Like how much we depend on our cars, even when it's like often more of a pain than anything else.
Right. Like, remember that time we were trying to get to that conference?
Okay.
We got stuck in that huge traffic jam. We totally could have walked there faster.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I haven't forgotten that. But that kind of leads us into the next part of this report, which I found super interesting
Mm.
because it doesn't just focus on like where we are now, but it looks ahead. And it lays out two very different potential futures for urban mobility.
Okay, so set the scene for us.
Yeah.
What's the first scenario?
So the first one they call the realistic scenario. And it basically says that even though we're making progress with things like electric cars and self-driving cars, our reliance on cars overall is probably going to stick around.
So electric cars, self-driving cars. It sounds futuristic, but are they really the answer? Or is the report saying that it's not that simple?
Yeah, they're saying it's definitely not that simple. Like, for example, with electric vehicles, they have the potential to really cut down on emissions, but only if the electricity we use to power them is also clean, you know?
Right. It's like we can't just switch to electric cars and pretend that the electricity just magically appears out of thin air.
Yeah. Exactly. And then you've got self-driving cars, which sound cool in theory, but the report brings up some interesting questions about how they might actually affect traffic.
Yeah, I've wondered about that. Like, what happens when everyone has a self-driving car and just sends it wherever they need to go instead of taking public transportation? Would that really make traffic better?
That's the big question. And the report suggests is that without a major change in our mindset about relying so heavily on cars, even all this new tech could actually make things worse. You know what I mean?
So it's not just about the tech, but about how we use it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the realistic scenario.
Yeah.
What about the ideal scenario? What does a truly transformed urban mobility landscape look like, according to this report?
This is where it gets really cool. They describe a future where cities are designed for people first, not cars. We're talking super efficient, affordable public transportation everywhere, like high-speed trains connecting cities, sleek modern trams in the cities, and bus routes that are everywhere and run on renewable energy.
Okay, now that's a vision I can get behind. Like those futuristic cities you see in movies, but without the flying cars.
Exactly. And it's not even just about having all these different options. It's about how seamlessly they all connect. You could walk to your local train station, take a high-speed train downtown, and then hop on a tram or grab an electric scooter to get to your final destination.
It's about how it all works together, right? So that owning a car just seems like a pain.
You got it. And it goes even further than just public transportation. They also talk about the potential for carpooling and car sharing to help reduce the number of cars on the road.
Those aren't exactly new ideas, though, right? Like,
Yeah.
carpooling has been around forever, but it's never really become that popular. Why do you think that is?
It's true. It often comes down to convenience and just our habits. But the report argues that with the right incentives, we could see a big change in behavior, like
Hmm.
tax breaks for people who choose eco-friendly options, or even charging people more to drive alone during rush hour.
So are we like on the verge of a transportation revolution then? Is it even realistic to imagine a future where people aren't so reliant on their cars?
That's the big question, right? The report admits that it's not going to be easy. It would require a massive overhaul of how we design our cities and a real shift in people's mindsets.
So where do we even start?
Huh.
What kind of concrete solutions does the report offer?
Well, they talk about a bunch of different approaches, combining things like urban planning technology and policy changes. One pretty radical idea they propose is limiting car access to city centers,
Okay,
you know, turning them into pedestrian havens.
I actually love that idea. Imagine cities where you can just walk around without all the noise and pollution from cars.
Yeah,
It'd be a completely different experience.
right. It's about giving those spaces back to the people. Imagine plazas with cafes and markets where you can actually hear yourself think, or wide streets with trees, perfect for walking and biking.
It sounds idyllic, but wouldn't banning cars from city centers be really disruptive for a lot of people?
Of course, any big change comes with challenges. The report emphasizes the importance of making sure there are good public transportation options available. Not just enough options, but options that are actually efficient, reliable, and affordable.
Right? It can't just be about taking away cars. People need to have other ways to get around.
Sure.
What about this idea of intelligent traffic systems that the report mentions? What is that exactly?
It's actually really cool. It's all about using technology to make traffic flow better and reduce congestion, like traffic lights that can adjust to real-time traffic conditions and give priority to buses or emergency vehicles, or sensors that can tell drivers where there are open parking spaces so they don't have to keep driving around in circles.
So less traffic, less wasted time, less pollution.
That-
Sounds like a win-win.
Mm.
Unless you're someone who enjoys a good traffic jam sing-along.
I think we can all live without those. But seriously, what this report highlights is that there's no single solution to this problem of how we move around in cities. It's about looking at the big picture and recognizing how everything's connected. Our individual transportation choices, urban planning, the environment, the economy, it's all related.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
Mm,
But I think this deep dive has shown just how important it is to keep talking about these issues and exploring new possibilities for the future of urban mobility.
absolutely. And I think this report does a great job of showing that a different kind of future is possible. A future where cities are designed with people in mind, not just cars.
Well said. Well, that brings us to the end of another deep dive. It's been quite a journey exploring the future of urban mobility. And as always, we want to leave you with something to think about. If you had the power to completely redesign your city's transportation system, what would it look like? What would your top priorities be? How would you create a system that's efficient and sustainable, but also makes the city a more livable place for everyone? Just something to ponder as we navigate the ever-changing world of transportation. Until next time, keep those wheels turning.